Welcome to Celtics Roundtable on the Boston Celtics newsfeed. We are powered by CLNS Radio, the leading online provider of audio-video content for your favorite Boston sports teams. Matt Ignall here, and what I plan on doing here is getting in a few NBA draft experts to talk about prospects who could realistically go top four, that they are particularly high or low on, and try to sell me on their potential or lack thereof. So for today, we have the host of the excellent Game Theory podcast, which covers all levels of basketball and is available on the CLNS Radio app. It's Sam Vecenie, who all year has been repping Duke forward Jayson Tatum as one of the best prospects in this draft. So let's get right into the action here. How was that omelet?
Oh, yeah, it was excellent. I was talking to Matt right before this, and I was in the middle of cooking an omelet right when he called me. So he was gracious enough, really, to let me finish cooking the omelet, eating it, and it was terrific. It was onion, green pepper, orange pepper, and spinach along with some cheese. It was perfect. It was exactly what I was looking for.
All right, great. But for real, why do you feel that Jayson Tatum is underrated or is perhaps being undersold as a top tier pick?
Well, yeah, I don't think it's a case of him being underrated. I will say that. This is a guy that's been pretty much universally in everyone's top five throughout the entire course of the season. Jayson Tatum's not coming out of coming off anyone's radar and turning into this elite prospect. But there were some times early in the season where I think he was questioned in terms of how good is this guy as an elite prospect? Is he on the level of the Markelle Fultz, Alonzo Ball? I think throughout the year, a lot of people didn't think he was. He was more in the Josh Jackson, Dennis Smith, De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk tier. But over the course of the last month, Tatum has really, really shown all of the skills that made him such a highly rated prospect coming into the year. He's 6'8" with a 7-foot wingspan, can play both the 3 and 4, creates shots from that position better than just about anyone in this draft, I would say, as a wing. And the big thing with him is that now he's becoming more efficient. I think there was a little bit of a 15-game window there where he was still trying to figure out college basketball. And, from February 15th onward, he's averaged 19 points, 8 rebounds, 2.5 assists per game while shooting 48% from the field, 36% from 3, and 89% from the line. Those are just outrageous numbers in the ACC. Really, they've only been surpassed by John Collins. I'm a big fan of Jayson Tatum, and I think that what is being undersold is whether or not he can go number one overall. I think that he is, maybe not quite at the same level of Markelle Fultz right now. I have Fultz a little bit above everyone else, but I have him at number 3 on my board. I think that he's very universally considered a top 5 pick at this stage, and I don't think it's crazy for him to get into that number 1 pick conversation.
Wow, so you have him ahead of someone like Josh Jackson then?
I do. I have Jayson Tatum 3 and Josh Jackson 4. What separates the two is something that from the outside kind of goes underrated, and just because there's a lack of information on the outside, right? But if you talk to people around the game and, through reports really of Jackson at this stage where he's now had multiple run-ins that you don't really want to see off the floor. There was a vandalism charge. There was a hit and run earlier this season, not this offseason. That kind of stuff is going to put pause in NBA scouts' minds. Jayson Tatum is universally known as an elite kid in terms of background, in terms of intelligence, in terms of work on his game, everything like that. He's going to check out, and he's going to check all of those boxes with flying colors. So I trust Tatum a little bit more than I trust Jackson at this stage. It's kind of what it comes down to in terms of what they do on the floor. You could say Josh Jackson's probably a little bit better of a defender. He's probably a little bit better in transition. Jayson Tatum's a better scorer, a little bit better in the half court. But yeah, I mean, the tiebreaker for me is that I just trust Jayson Tatum to get better. And I'm not saying Josh Jackson's necessarily a bad kid. I have very little experience with him personally, but all of the reports on Tatum and having spoken with him for 2 minutes before at Hoop Summit, all of the reports on Tatum are elite in terms of what his background is and how he's going to check out personally.
We've heard different comps for him. I've heard everything from DeMar DeRozan to Carmelo Anthony, Tobias Harris, and even Paul Pierce. What does he have to do to sort of live up to that potential? Or do you have a favorite comparison?
He is a shot creator that likes to get into the mid-range, can hit those shots. He can post and kind of do like the one-legged Dirk fadeaway. He's great footwork. Is the skill that goes underrated with him, I think, is that the way that he creates space for his shot, he decelerates better. Guys who can decelerate faster have an advantage in terms of creating space, and I think Tatum actually has that skill really under lock. And in terms of a comp, Pierce was a pretty decent athlete coming out of Kansas.
Yeah, but he was another guy who could like accelerate and decelerate.
He's also similar to Pierce in the way that he's not really like a vertical athlete in small spaces. Like Paul Pierce played a lot below the rim whenever he was in the half court, but you would occasionally see him like really rise up for a dunk when he was younger, right? Like he was not a bad athlete. He was just an athlete that, was a little bit different in terms of the way that he operated. So maybe Pierce isn't a bad comparison. I saw that Kevin O'Connor at the Ringer said Danny Granger earlier this week. That was interesting to me. I like that a little bit. Tatum's not quite the shooter Granger was though. So I think there's a little bit of a difference there, but yeah, he's your typical combo forward scorer. That's for sure. I think that any of these guys, Pierce, Granger, Melo, you could throw them out. He's a little bit different in some ways than those guys. He's similar to them in some ways. I mean, every player is their own player in some capacity, but I don't think any of those are wholly unfair comparisons.
So let's talk about that shooting. He was known as a guy who didn't take too many three-pointers, but he's hitting them at a decent clip, particularly recently. He's up to 37.5% three-point percentage in conference play. And then you look at his free throw shooting, which is probably the thing that stands out the most to me on his stat line. Do you see his range extending to the NBA, or is that something that's going to perhaps like take a few years? What are you seeing with his outside shooting? How big is that going to be for him, let's say in his first couple years in the NBA?
Yeah, I think that in the first couple years that's going to be the key. He is still not quite there in terms of being an elite outside shooter, but I would expect it to come given the way that he is known to work on his game, given the way that he is, the touch that he has portrayed this year, I guess is the way to put it. He is, like you said, shooting like 88% or something like that from the foul line on the year. He's a really good foul shooter. He's a solid 3-point shooter, but he just needs to get his legs a little bit more into it, and that'll come. There will just be slight mechanical adjustments and just hard work that he'll put in. I have no real qualms about him becoming at least like a strong shooter that you have to defend out there. And if that comes, it's going to open up the rest of his game because of that ability to create space and that as he develops as a ball handler with change of pace as opposed to right now he's a little bit more of a straight line driver that can just stop and start. As he develops a little bit more change of direction in his handle, I think that he's going to be a pretty unstoppable offensive weapon if he hits his ceiling.
Do you see him like as an average defender, or could he become a good one potentially?
Yeah, he's going to be a very switchable defender, I think, is the best way to put it. I don't know that he'll necessarily be like a major difference maker there or anything. Like he has solid lateral quickness, not like insane lateral quickness. Like you're not talking about an Andre Roberson here defensively, even though they have similar body types. Like he's not going to be that guy. But what he can do is he can reasonably defend anyone 2 through 4. If you got him stuck in a switch defensively onto a 1, I think he would be able to relatively hold his own as compared to other 3s and 4s in the NBA. That kind of ability is very valuable, especially for the Celtics, as we've seen with guys like Jay Crowder and Marcus Smart, who you can kind of use up and down the lineup in terms of defending players.
You said he's willing to work hard and he's a great kid. Have you seen any improvements in him over the last year, over the last 2 years or something that really stands out to you?
Yeah, I think that the big thing is that throughout the season we've seen him adjust and become a better passer. If you saw him early in the season this year, he was a disaster passing the ball. Like he just was not reading plays properly. He wasn't diagnosing what was happening around him. But as the season's progressed and he's become more comfortable defending and seeing what defenders are coming at him and just kind of understanding the game, the college game at the very least, and the speed of the college game particularly, he has become a much more adept passer. He is capable of hitting kickouts on drives. He can find cutters. He's like I said, he's averaging 2.5 assists per game over his last 10 games, which is a pretty good number for a wing. He's also just kind of figured out how to finish a little bit better. It's basically just been a long adjustment for him, right? As he figures out the game on the college level, he becomes better and better. And that happens for everyone, obviously, but his improvement has been particularly pronounced.
Right, yeah. I watch him and I just think man, if he was just a little bit more explosive around the rim, he'd be truly unstoppable. But as for his star potential, and that's something the Celtics are definitely going to be looking for. I think it's going to be what pretty much all teams picking near the top of the lottery are going to be looking for. What's separating him from being a multiple-time All-Star?
Yeah, I would set the over-under at him making an All-Star game at 1.5. Does he make 1.5 All-Star games or more? I do think that he is going to eventually reach that level and be an All-Star level forward, just because the offense is so polished. He's so crafty around the rim, even though he doesn't really have the finishing explosiveness that you hope for above the rim. I think he's just going to work harder than most people to get to the level. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of what I see from him.
The season is winding down. The playoff push is heating up. So anytime I want to buy tickets to Celtics games, or my beloved UConn Huskies, or really anything else, I power up the SeatGeek ticketing app on my phone, and with just 2 taps, I know I've found the best deal because SeatGeek is the smartest and easiest way to get tickets to every game. With SeatGeek's seamless mobile experience, you can buy and sell tickets in mere seconds. And it doesn't end with the Celtics or any other NBA game. SeatGeek also has plenty of concert, comedy, and theater tickets available too. And it's all fully guaranteed. Listeners to CLNS Radio can support this production and get a $20 rebate off their first SeatGeek purchase. Here's how. Download the free SeatGeek app, go to the Settings tab, and click Add a Promo Code, and enter promo code CELTSNEWS, all one word, and SeatGeek will send you $20 after you've made your first ticket purchase. Download the free SeatGeek app and enter the promo code CELTSNEWS today.
Quickly, before we wrap up here, is there anyone that you feel is a lottery fraud here? Is there anyone who's overrated that you feel that Dennis Smith has been falling recently?
Well, what I will say is that I think Dennis Smith's floor is probably lower than anyone else's in the lottery, realistically, just because his frame is not fantastic. There's still a question, does he actually make his teammates better? Having said that, his ceiling is also considerably higher than I think anyone outside of Fultz, just because he's such an explosive athlete, just has a nose for the ball. He's able to pass. He's able to create for his teammates. He's able to get his own buckets, and he can shoot. So, he has a lot of skills in the toolbox. He just needs to figure out how to utilize them better, kind of.
Right.
So, I would say his floor is probably a little bit lower than all of the rest of these guys. Maybe, Jonathan Isaac is a guy that he hasn't really shown the mentality of a lottery pick this year, which is such a ridiculous statement for a lot of people to say, I think. It frustrates me when I hear analysts say that, but this is a guy that's taking 8 field goal attempts per game. Having said that, I think that his floor is relatively high because he is a hard worker. He, has such athleticism, such length, such height that he's going to be able to defend multiple positions. He's going to protect the weak side of the rim. He has a nose for the ball on defense. The more that I watch him, the more I question what his ceiling is, given his athletic gifts.
Yeah, it's weird. He's passive on offense. He's got he's almost like a 4th or a 5th option out there, and that would be fine to slide him in immediately. But to me, he works really hard on defense. I just love his defensive motor out there. It's really striking to me. He's got some fans on this podcast.
Well, it's he doesn't trust himself on offense. He doesn't trust that he can just use his athleticism to blow by anyone at any time, which realistically I kind of think that he can.
All right. We want to thank Sam Vecenie for coming on. Is there anything you want to plug, Sam?
Just follow me on Twitter at Sam_Vecenie. I'll have, some work coming out on Vice, sporting news. I'm sure I'll have a big board coming out soon. Follow the Game Theory podcast, obviously. And thank you for having me on, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, that'll do it here on the Boston Celtics Roundtable. Remember to use the promo code CELTSNEWS on your next SeatGeek purchase. Follow us on Twitter at CLNS Roundtable, and we will be back tomorrow after the Celtics take on the red-hot Karl-Anthony Towns and the Minnesota Timberwolves. We'll see you then.